You're the guy people call when they need a helping hand, moving furniture, unloading a truck. But lately, your shoulder's been acting up, and you're the one who's calling for help. And that's the moment you realize you can no longer shoulder the load.
The Joint and Spine Center is Cincinnati's leading destination for orthopedic care with a range of surgical and non-surgical treatments. So when a moment has the power to change the rest of your life, go to the one place with the power to change it for the better, the Christ Hospital Health Network. This changes everything.
The Pound This Podcast is brought to you by the Christ Hospital Health Network. This is the Pound This Podcast, episode 597, Shay's Weight Loss Journey, weekly updates.
I want to lose weight, but I don't know how to get started.
What should I meal prep every week?
How do I get those sweet booty gains?
Inspiration for your healthy lifestyle. The Pound This Podcast with Amanda Valentine.
Thank you so much for listening to the Pound This Podcast. I'm Amanda Valentine. Shay's back. What's up?
Hey, girl.
So we were
Long
just
time no see.
Right? We saw each other yesterday at Pilates. Yeah. But we were just having this awesome conversation before I started recording, and I was just like, oh my God, we got to shut up because we got to talk about this on the podcast, because we're just talking about like so many important things of like maintenance and losing weight and the pandemic and what we're eating and how we're exercising. And I do want to get into that in a second, just because that's exactly where our heads were at before recording this. But before we get into some deeper topic here, yesterday was the first time, well, we've done Pilates together, once now? Before yesterday? Once or twice?
Yeah,
and
I think
then
like twice now.
Yesterday was the first time that Shay was the instructor. And hopefully we can continue to go. At the time of recording this, we don't know if Ohio's going to shut down gyms or fitness centers or not. So that could change by the end of this afternoon. But what was your vibe of Pilates yesterday with Shelly?
Well, girl, I gotta tell you, my ass has never been this sore.
I know, my ass is so sore today.
It's on fire. I'm supposed to go for a walk later, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I even should. I went to sit down on the toilet this morning, and I was like, oh Jesus, my poor ass.
Well, even yesterday in the middle of it, I was like, my ass is on fire.
I know. I was like, wow, this is really something. But no, it was good. I really liked Shelly a lot. And I enjoyed the way that she taught the class. So
yeah. So yesterday I could just tell from the way that Shelly was teaching that class, I'm like, I am definitely going to feel this tomorrow, one in my ass and in my core. And I think that's the thing about Pilates is it's one of those things, if it's you're not sweating your ass off. It's not like this go hard workout, but you're you can just tell of this is kind of I'm going to feel this tomorrow. And I felt that a lot from yesterday. And it's not even anything you're doing any sort of wild moves or anything like that. It was just pretty straight ahead sort of stuff. And yeah, that's this morning when I got out of bed, I'm like, ooh, okay.
That's why it's awesome though, is because it's not like you're doing some hardcore cardio or pushing heavy shit. It's just these basic movements that are actually really hard. So
yeah, and that's why I'm really hoping. I know people listening to this podcast listen all over the place, and everybody has different rules with where they're at right now, even in other countries where I've had listeners reach out and they have some pretty intense rules going on. And I have friends in other states that were just talking to me yesterday that got shut down in their gyms and stuff like that. So obviously COVID is very serious, and I don't want anybody to get sick, and I don't want to be completely selfish and have just the things that I want open, but I will be bummed if we can't do those in person. For me personally, classes on the reformer, because even yesterday, some of the moves we were doing, I was like, oh, I'm feeling this in my janky ass knee. And it's you can move around it. So I can still do these exercises on a reformer around my injuries. Where and I think it's awesome that Shelly does all the virtual on the mat classes for Pilates, but I don't know for me personally with all the jacked up stuff I have going on with my body, if that's going to jive as well as the reformer, which I think is just, one of the many concerns people have of their fitness center class which is sanity for so many people right now.
Right.
Shutting down or, take away even just being a small business owner of the ways that helps people. So, I mean, I hope that doesn't get shut down, but if it does, then I guess that's what we need to do. But man, it feels like it's so good for my mental health and my physical health that I hate to see that stuff go away for people.
No, I know. That's how I feel. Cause it's as soon as anytime I've taken a break from working out, I have noticed a huge shift in my mental health. So not only is it helping like me physically, but it does so much for my mind that I am concerned about if gyms shut down because it's going to get cold and dark. And I'm like, I need that. So.
Yeah. Right. And I even had someone to send me an email earlier this week talking about like my pinched nerve and stuff. And she's like, don't discount chronic pain and the lack of exercise, like as part of like your mental health. And for me, struggling with depression and stuff right now, of like, yeah, when you take that stuff away, like it deeply affects you, which is why we are all in for an interesting winter. Like,
I know.
I guess, at least now I'm not in pain, so I'll be able to take virtual classes and I can still do some stuff on my own. Like I have my like crappy, rusty, very noisy spin bike that I can use my Peloton app with. And I have bands, and plus, if I need to do a virtual class with Shelly, then I can do that. Of like, it's nice to have options, but I guess as everybody's kind of going into a different kind of winter of, I guess advice would be is just keep up with exercise if you can, because it makes such a big difference. And that'll lead me into my question here, because somebody did ask, which this is kind of what sparked our conversation before we started recording, is somebody asked if you could share details of what you're eating and what your exercise is right now. So I'll start with what your exercise is. On a weekly basis, what does that look like for you right now?
So generally I train with Josh Tuesday, Thursday, and then I've been doing Pilates on Wednesdays. And then I try to go for a walk, like on my off days, generally like days that I'm not doing an actual like workout class. I generally like take Mondays off because I work a 12-hour day, but I try to go out and walk for at least an hour if I can. I haven't been using my Fitbit lately because I was getting a little obsessive about like, oh, you got to hit your 10,000 steps. And then I almost wasn't enjoying going out for a walk. So it's been better for me to just go out and enjoy my walk and not be concerned about whether I'm hitting 10,000 steps or not. But yeah, so I do those 3 things. And then I really love to walk, and that's all I was doing at the beginning of me losing weight. So I think people underestimate how important that can be.
Yeah, same. I mean, mine started with walking too. That's just, walking's been so helpful for me, which has also been such a struggle this year. Of as much as I love walking, it's how I began my weight loss journey, which is almost freaking 10 years ago now, which is bonkers. And that for me, kind of battling or struggling with depression over the past couple months, it's like, I don't want to go for a walk. And that is horrifying to me, of like, I don't even want to go. Even when I go, there is no enjoyment out of it. I feel like before it's just like, oh, yeah, like you were just saying, like, I want to enjoy my walk, is like, I'm not enjoying any part of it. Even when I get home, it's like, I don't feel better for doing it. I'm kind of forcing myself to because I'm like, I know I need to move, and I know ultimately it's better for me. But it's just, oh man. And I know I'm not alone in that too, of just kind of like, just not getting what you want out of it when it is so helpful. Like it is, it can be turn the tides to a completely different life, or just help you. And I know that it's going to come back. That's why I'm trying to keep kind of implementing things in my life. Like, I know exercise is good for me. I know it's good for my mental health. I'm trying, even though every day I'm not super psyched to get up and go to Pilates, or I'm not super psyched to go for a walk. I'm like, I know I'm going to get through this, and it's good for me. Just go. And I feel like it's starting to lighten up a little bit, where I'm starting to have that love for it again. but that's why it's so scary if these things are taken away, because it's like, even if you don't feel like it, it's still just, I mean, just to go outside and go for a walk is just huge.
Right. Because I don't notice until I stop doing those things how much they impact my mental health. It's all of a sudden when it's not there, I'm like, whoa, I feel a lot different.
Yeah. Are you still going and doing cardio at Planet Fitness at all?
No, I've kind of quit doing that. I was doing it. I generally will do it in the summer when it's really hot and then the winter when it's really cold. But I also have had a really hard time, like as the cases have gone up, I'm just not even comfortable going to Planet Fitness. People don't really care there. They're not really enforcing things the way that I hoped they would be. Um, and I just feel more comfortable, like when I go train with Josh, there's barely anybody there. When, we're with Shelly, everybody wears masks and there's barely any of us. So
Yeah.
that stuff feels safe to me. When I go to Planet Fitness and people aren't wearing masks and they're everywhere, and it just feels like not really a situation that I should put myself in. So I'm going to try this winter just to bundle up. And I mean, earlier this week, I walked with a mask on because then my face wasn't cold. So I'm just going to try and bundle up and walk outside, because I don't feel like I can, even if the gyms stay open, I don't feel like I can go like walk on a treadmill at Planet Fitness. I'd be too anxious right now.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing this podcast is not sponsored by Planet Fitness.
I know. Like, let me just shit all over Planet Fitness. Oh God.
Oh, well, I mean, they have been blowing up my emails of like, join for $1, and it's like the same deals they always have. And I'm like, I mean, man, you're really trying to get people in there. I'm like, I get it. But yeah, and again, it's just, everything is so different, at least here in the US, state by state. It's like, you just like can't even compare, or like Ohio to Iowa. You know what I mean? Like everybody is just so different in their views of like a gym could feel totally good in another state, but it doesn't here, or even in different parts of Ohio. Like, that's just why I think things are so freaking bonkers. The longer this thing just keeps on staying in our damn lives, is that everybody is having a bad time, but we're all having different experiences, even though we're all together in it. Like, it's, like, here in Cincinnati, it's a different experience than if you're in a more rural town in Ohio. And so, yeah, for us to all like agree on things like this, of like, I go to my gym and it, like, you go to Cincy 360 Fitness and it feels completely safe and clean and open in space, and there's not many people, and that's still a gym, but that's different than a Crunch or a Planet Fitness. So you can't compare the two, but then they all get shut down and they all get grouped together. I don't know. It's just,
it's so frustrating.
So the other part of the question was, what does your food look like? So I guess just to reiterate, for people that are just new joining this conversation, can you hear Beasley barking? I'm curious if that's getting recorded or not. Okay.
Yeah, I can hear it. I can hear my boyfriend.
Oh my God, Beasley, let's go.
I love him.
Now I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was asking you about a food. So people were asking, like, what is your, or to reiterate that you've lost 92 pounds, and we'll get into this into like where you're at. So that's where your weight loss journey was. When we met at the beginning of the year before COVID, the goal for you was that you still had like 50 pounds that you would like to lose, and that was another life. All the way back in January. And so
I'm like, that was funny.
And how, like, obviously we've all changed how we're eating and behaving since January for multiple reasons. But like where you're at right now, I think with food is where I kind of wanted to go with that question. Is what's happening in November of 2020 for Shannon/Shay?
So right now I'm trying to literally be as basic as possible, like whatever's easy for me, whatever sounds like healthy but good, because I'm finding if I don't enjoy what I'm eating, I'm just going to go binge, and just be a crazy person. So, My breakfast has generally been the same, because most days I'm going into work later now, so I can actually make my breakfast. But I'm doing like eggs and toast and then sometimes fruit. And then like my lunches is honestly, sometimes I eat my breakfast late enough that that's my lunch too, to be totally honest. And then I try to snack a lot because I also know that if I get hungry, I'm gonna just overeat. So if I get too hungry, I'm gonna eat whatever's in front of me and I'm not gonna stop. So I try to always have snacks. So I do stuff like bananas with peanut butter, or I'll do like a cheese stick and some nuts. I'll do like yogurt, Greek. I'll just do like vanilla Greek yogurt. And sometimes I'll add like granola or blueberries or something, but it just depends on what I have and how simple I feel like being. Um, and then honestly, for dinner at work, I've been taking sandwiches. I'll do like, um, I'll get like deli chicken and have a sandwich. Sometimes I don't even do a sandwich. I'll just eat like the deli meat and cheese and then like carrots or something. Salads have also been super easy. I've just been doing like spinach, and then I'll put like walnuts or pecans and cranberries, and then I make my own dressing. Um, so I'm just trying to do whatever's easy right now because I don't feel like I have enough in me to like prep a bunch of food. So winter's nice because I feel like I can do like soups or chilies. That kind of stuff is easy, and I feel like I can make it healthy because I know what's going in it. But
Well, and I wanted to highlight that too, because whenever I first asked you and somebody asked that question, are you cool with answering that question? You're just kind of like, oh, I don't have a good answer. And I'm like, that is a great answer because
right.
everybody's journey is completely different. Like I operate so much better when things are meal prepped and cook things out, because if I'm in that situation of like, I don't have something to eat for lunch, I'm all over the map. Like mentally, I just don't like it. It makes me feel nuts. And then I will make really bad choices. So for me, being like a prepper and having things done is helpful for me. But what you're doing is like helpful for you. So it's not like there's any right or wrong way to do it. I mean, you've had maintained your weight loss this year, which is completely phenomenal. And I know you're giving yourself a hard time about that, but it's like, but you're doing what's right. I think that it's so smart to just do things that you feel good about so you don't binge out. To, if not having a plan is helpful for you, then don't have a plan, and you're just kind of like living your life and taking it as it is, and that's the correct answer for you. And it's just
Right.
We all get so hung up on like, tell me what you're eating, tell me how this is happening, and it's like, but I've said meal prepping has been so helpful for me, but I don't think I've ever uttered the words like, this is the answer. Like, this is
Right.
how you do it, of like, it's helpful, but it's not helpful for everybody. Cause like you brought up the point too. And so don't worry. So many people have brought up the point to me. I don't like to eat the same thing every day.
No.
And I'm like, I do. So that's my jam. Like, I would prefer to turn my brain off and eat the same thing every day and I just don't mind it. But I know so many people, for you, that would probably be like hell. And
It really would be, to be totally honest. And then I just wouldn't do it. I'd be like, F this, I'm not doing this anymore. And that's what I've learned throughout doing this is like, even the food that I've been eating on my journey changes all the time because I get tired. I'm like, I don't want to eat that anymore. And I have to I talk to a lot of people like, what the hell do you eat? I follow a lot of like Instagrams because I need ideas for what to eat because I will get bored. And there's so many people that eat all sorts of different things. And I think it's important to be like, oh, hell, I've never thought of that and try that.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's why I love accounts because I do that too. But I don't know, it's changed so much. And I know Instagram's under a lot of fire here lately because with the changing the notification button to shopping. And like a lot of stuff on Instagram now is just influencers and selling crap instead of like, here's pictures and kind of a fun space to be, which is a bummer. But it's so important to find people, and this is the reason why I share like my meal prep Sunday and stuff like that, of like, here's what I'm really eating. and getting ideas from that, which is why I also love like Jill Christine Fit on Instagram, because like she's got so many creative, crazy things that she makes that I'm like, I never would have thought to make cake out of protein powder on a daily basis, but that's doable to me, where there's so many people on social media, specifically Instagram, that are posting pictures of food that they're not eating. It's like, here's a pretty picture so I can get likes. Or even there's so many meal prep accounts do that too. I'm like, but are you actually eating that? Are you just like making pretty chef pictures to put in meal prep containers to be like, here's what you should do, or here's what you can do. And I'm like, but is that realistic for most people? Like, are you eating that? Like anything that I show, like that is going into my face.
Right.
And so I think that it's a dangerous role to go into too, of like to think of some of these accounts being like, this is the way, even if they say this is what I'm eating, and it's kind of bullshit, because some of it you're like, no, you're not. Like you're eating this perfect charcuterie board all the time. That's where it's dangerous, because you get in the comparison game of like, oh, well, I would like to have the physique of this person, and oh, this is what they're doing, so I feel like I should have something similar to this, when you don't even know if that's really what they're doing or not. And some of these, again, you don't know, if you don't know these people, you don't know that they're not starving themselves, or what kind of things that they are eating outside of the pictures that they post. And I don't know. It's just, again, where social media, and we've talked about this a ton, can be so incredibly helpful and amazing, but it also can be dangerous.
Right.
And so, yeah, that was the whole reason why I started sharing what I was eating, is I was tired of seeing accounts of like, yeah, but what are you really eating? And we're all so curious, which is why somebody asked you of like, you've lost over 90 pounds, you've maintained during a dumpster fire year. What are you doing? And that's why I think, and it's a perfect, amazing answer to be like, it changes all the time. I'm doing what's best for me, and it's always going to constantly ebb and flow, because that's everybody, and how much our body chemistry has just changed from the stress of this year is going to change how we eat too.
Yeah. And even though I don't meal prep, like the most important thing for me is like the days that I'm going to be at work, I pack all my food. So I do have some sort of idea of what I'm going to eat, but sometimes I even take multiple snacks, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to feel like eating when I'm at work. Let's have options.
Yeah.
So I do like make sure that I prepped for work, because like, for instance, Mondays, I work 9 to 9. So if I don't eat enough while I'm at work, I know that I will go home and binge, or I'll go through a drive-through on the way home. So I better have plenty of food to eat for my 12-hour day.
Yeah.
So I think it's like, even if you're not going to like necessarily meal prep for the whole week, you do have to have some sort of idea of what you're going to do that day. Because if I don't pack food for my 12-hour day, I'm going to DoorDash multiple times. Like, it's not like I can just DoorDash once and eat once for that 12-hour day. I'm on my feet all day. So I can either pack for my whole day and know that I'm going to have options, and I can still kind of eat what sounds good, or I'm going to DoorDash. So.
Well, I also think it's important to point out that you can still do those things, and it doesn't have to be this chicken and broccoli, rice kind of, classic cliche sort of healthy eating of like you said, like chilies and soups and sandwiches, and like that, just because like that's not the image of what you're sold of what you're supposed to eat, or what, a healthy diet is, or losing weight, of like, you can still have those things. Like I don't know. It's just, and I was telling you too, of like, I know people that are losing weight this year that are still having drinks on the weekends, and they're still eating ice cream and snacks and going out to eat, and and they are door dashing, and like they're still reaching their goals of like, we get so hung up on this, like it has to be this perfection all the time. And maybe like, I know for me, I like going in spurts of perfection. It makes me feel good. That's my own head of like, I like going through spurts of being really strict, and then I like to loosen it up a little bit. Again, it ebbs and flows, but it's so hard. And I think I'm speaking for a lot of people here to get out of your head of that all or nothing thing of it's like either salads and veggies or it's, lasagna and deep fried cheesecake. Like
Right.
it's like you can moderately have some of the other stuff. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And it just, I don't know. I don't even know how we all got into that mindset. I'm not a therapist, but I don't know how we get out of it either, because I get guilty of doing that too.
Right. Well, because it's like the amount of damage that a piece of cheesecake is going to do, not really that big a deal compared to like, oh, I'm going to eat a piece of cheesecake, so I'm going to eat a large pizza too.
Yeah.
Like there is a huge difference in that. So it's like, just eat the fucking piece of cheesecake. Like you don't have to like decide to ruin your whole day because you want to eat a piece of cheesecake.
I will say though, it's harder though once you make, like, let's just say you had a day of doing that versus allowing yourself a piece of cheesecake after like one dinner. This is where it's so slippery, is like you have like one crappy day. Like, let's even just say you did have drinks with friends the night before, got a little bit too wild, too many of them, new Christmas Bud Light seltzers.
Oh.
And then you're hungover the next day, and then you feel like trash. So you want to eat trash food. You're like, yo, I want some soft shell tacos. And I want, like, you're just like, you want that greasy fast foody, like, this is going to make me feel better. So let's just say you give into that and you're like, oh, it's just one day. And you eat those sorts of things all day. It is so hard, even for one freaking day, to change the mindset back into the next day. And I just think that is the ultimate switch and downfall of, and it is hard for some reason, like it's like you let yourself be kid in a candy store and eat like garbage for one whole day. And then the next day you're like, I don't really feel like eating this like spinach lasagna or whatever you prepared for yourself. And that's like, I've had to learn where you just have to really like grab my own wrist and sit down with myself of like, what do you want here? Like, this is the point where it turns. I've lived this life many times. You either keep going down this path or you choose to go down the other one. And maybe it's just something you got to live through enough to be like, no, I don't want to keep the one day going into a whole week, which turns into a month, which turns into a year of like, yeah, it doesn't sound real sexy to have an egg white omelet the morning after eating pizzas and wings and everything else the next day. But it's like, how bad do you want this? What do you want for yourself? Like, and that's where I think it's tough. It's just it's just like those moments. It just feels like that's where everybody gets slipped up.
Mm-hmm. And it's hard to go right back to like this healthy lifestyle after you have like a weekend of eating like crap. So, cause that stuff tastes good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nobody's saying it doesn't. So
that's why it's like, I think important, like you said, of when you do have healthy foods that you're eating, you're enjoying it. It doesn't feel like this, like, if you don't like an egg white omelet for breakfast, then don't eat it, because if you have a day that you're going to be like, let's just say you're having a 5,000 calorie day, because that happens. Let's be real. Then you're not going to want to eat that thing that you're not excited about the next day. And I think that's just a trap that I've fallen into too, of like, you got to enjoy some part of it. And you got to find tricks of finding the things that you like to eat, even if it's not like, do I want to eat a healthier sandwich versus eating like a plate of fried cheese? Like, hell yeah, I want a plate of fried cheese, but like, where does that take me versus the sandwich? Like, there's more that comes into play there. And it's just such a freaking mental game. And it's why it's so hard this year, because this year has been just a mental meltdown. Mm-hmm. And how are you supposed to be mentally strong for all of these temptations that comfort you in a year full of discomfort?
Right. And I think it's really important for people to, like, when you do eat that shit, to like really focus on how your body feels, because if I eat like shit, I feel like shit, and sometimes for like a whole day. So like, that's part of what helps me to make better decisions, is I like how I feel a lot better when I don't eat like crap. So it's like, sure, that food tastes good for like a couple minutes, but then I don't feel good after.
Yeah. Well, even a problem that I've been having this year is it's just such deep-seated eating disordered stuff of like of using that. It's that, and that's why this year is, you know, we were just talking about this before we recorded too. Like it feels like you hear it so much now, like, oh, 2020, give yourself a break because it is a hard year. But like it's really real, like how much this year is damaging, because I have loved this healthy lifestyle for almost a decade now. I didn't think that there was anything that could have derailed me. I've really worked on eating disordered issues. I haven't binged in a long time. And I will say that I have not really gone into a binge this year, which I'm really proud of, which is a list of things I had to write of like, where I'm like, oh, I'm trash and I'm not doing the good enough of like, you are nowhere near what you used to be. I didn't go into a frenzied binge this year. But where it is just so deeply buried in me that 2020 brought out is just, I feel really uncomfortable. I don't feel good. I want to use food to elevate my mood. And either food or caffeine. And I've already poured enough caffeine onto my body that's not elevating my mood. So as much as I meal prepped and stuff this year, the hard part for me is at night. It's like at night when I give myself the chance to quote unquote relax. I can sit down and I can watch Netflix. I'm not responding to emails and doing meetings and everything else. Then I'm like, I know I'm not even hungry, but I just want to eat to soothe myself, because that's what I've known my whole life. Like that's deeply rooted in me from a kid of like, I'm having a bad time. Chips will make it feel better because nothing else does. And so that has really kind of been unearthed in me, even though I thought that I had a really great hold on it. Again, just the effects of 2020 and just how it just keeps on going. Like it didn't. So it's like the longer that I've been in this, the more that I feel myself being pulled into that, which is also why I'm using Sarah with Sarah D Fit with me as my coach right now. Cause I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm like, I need somebody to keep an eye on me, because me now I'm just reaching for comfort. I just want to feel better. But I know that I feel mentally and physically terrible after I do this. And again, I'm not even doing like really bad things. It's just being unchecked. It's like, I'm not going to count or pay attention to this. I just want to sit here and mindlessly eat to try to numb out. And so with me working with her for the past several weeks, it's helped a lot, because at night, every night, I still have those feelings, but I'm working through it and it's getting better and lighter of like, I know I'm doing, so I'm like, I'm full right now. I don't need to do that. I know I'm doing this. And guess what? Somebody's watching you. So like, it's, you know, it's, I don't know. It's just so wild, the power of food on you, no matter how good you think that you are at manipulating it, especially when you have like this weird connection with it. And so it's just, I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but it's, I don't know. It's just why it's just 2020 is wild, man.
Well, and as crappy as this year has been, and as much as I've like noticed myself using food to soothe, I'm more aware of it now. And that's been a cool thing to come out of 2020, is finding new ways to soothe myself. So like, a lot of times I want to use food to soothe myself after work, especially because right now, all I hear about is COVID and politics. That's all anybody talks about. It's exhausting. And so I want to come home and soothe myself with food. And I've had to learn new ways to do that. So a lot of times I come home and I make myself a hot tea and I sit on my couch with my cat, and that is soothing to me. So I really have to work to like see like, oh my God, you're trying to soothe yourself with food. What else can I do to love you and soothe you other than sit and eat a pint of ice cream?
Yeah.
Because that's not actually loving to me, and it's going to soothe me for a minute, but then I'm going to be in a horrible headspace and I'm going to hate myself. So it is like, honestly, I'm like, if I can soothe myself through 2020, then hell, I feel like I can soothe myself through anything.
Yeah, right?
So
well, that's why we were talking earlier. You were trashing on yourself for staying in maintenance versus losing weight. And I'm like, I think that's amazing. And like, just listen to what you're saying, like these lessons that you're learning, you're getting through that. I'm like, that I feel like is a much bigger accomplishment than losing 10 pounds this year of
Right.
dealing with those issues. Cause I mean, I deal with the same food issues. It is hard. So
Yeah,
for
it
you to be able to
is.
do that is just that. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment in my opinion.
I'm trying to see it that way.
Yeah, I know, right? You can't see it for yourself. You can see it in other people.
Yeah. Trying really hard to not be so mean to myself about it, but because that doesn't help 2020. So,
Right. And see it and everybody's got a different thing because food is my thing and that's not my husband's thing. But his is he wants to drink beers at the end of the day. And he was going on about like I need to the same things that I say about food. I know I need to stop doing this. I have brain fog every day when I drink. It's not like he's getting hammered every night. He just wants to have a few beers to like erase the day. And he's just like, I feel so much better. I'm more productive. I feel good. I just need to stop this habit. And he was doing it for maybe like a week. And then last night he actually had to go into work instead of working from home. And he was sitting on the couch talking to me, drinking a beer. And I'm like, I didn't even say anything because I'm like, I wouldn't want him to say something to me if I'm sitting on the couch eating whatever I'm eating. Like, you're going to stop doing that because I know how trashy that feels. And so,
right.
but I'm like, it's just like, it's so hard of like, this year just sucks. And it's like, if that's your thing to make you feel better, how do you quit it when you're in like crisis mode? Where I know he doesn't want to drink a couple beers after work to feel better, but it's just like some days you're like, I need something to distract me.
Right. And some days that's the best you can do. Like, it's not like I always come home and use a better method to calm myself down. Like, there are days where I'm just gonna sit there and eat food in front of the TV. And that's the best I could do that day.
Yeah, right? Yeah, then just not beat yourself up for those bad days. I don't know. It's so hard when you want to tell yourself or say out loud on a podcast, like, take it easy and be easy on yourself. This year is hard. But then like when you're actually living it, it's like, it's so hard to tell yourself that because you're just kind of like, no. And you're just like, well, other people are doing that, but I can't. I just suck at this. And you're just like, everybody's just so freaking mean to themselves. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. Like, and then it's also can be dangerous too of then when does it become you're using that, at least in my head, of my sort of dangerous thinking is like, oh, when is the point where I'm using that as an excuse of, oh, I could do things better, but 2020 is hard, so I'm gonna do this anyway. Of like, then finding that line, I think is really hard. Of between make yourself feel better, give yourself a break, but then also when are you kind of running away with it, in which I don't have the answer for.
Yeah. No, and I think that's part of the hard thing is because this is going on for so long, it was like, okay, I'm going to like take it easy for a minute, until this is over. Well, it's not over and it's not going to be over tomorrow or, even a couple weeks from now. So then you're like, it really does feel like, am I using this as an excuse to just coast when in reality, I really am just trying to survive right now. So it's, that is what it is. It doesn't, but I have to like try and decide, am I using that as an excuse or am I doing the best I can right now? And that day to day, I change my mind about which of those I'm doing. So,
yeah. So, but I think that you're doing awesome. Take the weight out of it because let's not focus on the scale right now. But again, just like learning these kind of life lessons of really sitting in with what you're dealing with and recognizing what you're doing and your behaviors, I just think is just so huge. And, but it's hard to look at of like, oh, well, I do this because of this. And it's kind of like, oh, but I don't want to do that. But then, but it's avoidance is also just as powerful of a drug. But I think being like self-aware of what you're doing is just the key to things. Cause it doesn't seem like we're going to be getting out of this anytime soon, at least in the next 6 months. So it's like, we got to figure out the way to live our best lives through that. And in whatever ways you need to do it. For me, I'm like, I I need somebody to lean on more. I'm having a hard time going back to deep seated eating disordered stuff. I need help. So I'm getting it because that's the smartest decision for me right now, because I recognize what I'm doing and I'm recognizing I'm having where my mental state is, because apparently part of my brain just melted down this year is like, that's where I'm at. Is that where I would like to be? Like, no, like, you know what I mean? But it's like, that's what it is. So work with what you got now. Like, I know so many people have like, I've gained 50 pounds this year. Is this where I want to be? No, like, it's just like it, but let's focus on where we're at in this moment. And then what's next. And not look back and be like, wow, I really messed up this year. Like, well, did you, or are we just going to end up stronger out of it because we're learning so many things, which I know sounds cliche and out of a motivational book, but it's like, I mean, why not look at it that way? What's the flip side of like, that's, I mean, pretty much what we got to hold on to is try to choose an optimistic outlook, because otherwise you're just going to sit there in darkness over and over. So.
Right. And that's not a fun place to be. So
no, it's not.
I don't know. Some good things have to come out of this year. So, and if that's just learning how to care for yourself through something traumatic, then I think that's a positive thing.
Yeah. And then, and I just feel like it's so funny because whenever the pandemic started and I did so many podcasts and specifically like in April, of like, and I still believe this, but it's just crazy, because we could never predicted where we would be now. And we can't predict where we're going to be in 6 months either. But it's like at that time of like, okay, this is an opportunity for people to really evaluate their health, of like, we are in a health crisis of this is about taking care of your body and being in a good place and really kind of shift the focus to that. And that's where my optimistic brain took it in March and April. And then to see where we are now, it's like, wow, like that doesn't really happen. How many of us are just like, we're eating and we're drinking and we're doing these things because we can't freaking deal, of like, okay, so, of like this, that's where we're all at, myself included. So now where do we go from here? Of like, of just, and maybe it will spin back around too. Wow, we've all had to kind of have this really messy year, to maybe it will turn back around and refocus on health and our bodies and where we're at. And so maybe it just takes this long loop to get to where I was optimistically hoping the pandemic would take us. But we're not over it yet. So that's where it's like, it'd be fun to take a time machine and go 10 years in the future, so we could like look back on this and be like, what did we learn from it? What like cool things came out of it, instead of just like going through it day to day of like, oh God, what's next? And I think that's just,
I know. I saw a really funny.
Go ahead.
I saw a really funny meme that was like, I can't wait to be able to say, remember the coronavirus?
Right. Well, I went to the store to pick up something earlier this week, and already like the toilet paper was like half ransacked again. I'm like, oh man, this is happening again. Are we going back in this cycle? Like, all right. So yeah, I would like to put this on fast.
Did we not learn the first time that we didn't need to do that?
I guess not, unless people are just preparing for the holidays and they're like, yo, I'm going to be eating some stuff that's going to come right out of me, and I need to be prepared.
My family shits a lot. What can I say?
Yeah. So I don't know. Like it wasn't like wiped out. It wasn't like March levels, but it was definitely had the early COVID vibes at least in my store. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, so, all right. Again, who knows what's going to happen? Just trying to stay positive, doing what I can in the moment. What I can do in the moment is go to Pilates and enjoy it, go for walks, work out at home, make better food choices, try to be in a better mental space, asking for help, talking it out. That's what I'm doing today, and that's what I hopefully can do tomorrow, and that's what I can control. So it sounds like you're doing the exact same thing of like control what I can control today and just, the only way out is through.
That's right. I mean, we have no other option right now. We got to go through it. So, and it's the whole reason I did this journey was to love myself. So that's what I got to try and do through this. So.
Do you feel like you're better at loving yourself than when you first started?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not killer at it, but I'm much better than I was.
Yeah. Same. And like my journey's been pretty long too. It's just like, that's where it's like, it's a journey. It's like, it's always going to be, changes to that. And so, that's my ultimate goal too, is like to really work on self-love, and it takes time.
Sadly, it's not easy.
Right. But I mean, it's worth it. I mean, as much as this year has sucked for me and dealing with more, just like, mental health issues, like having a depression that I've never really dealt with before, that is out of my control, because I'm doing everything I can do for me personally to take care of that. Even with that being said, I am in a much better place now than I was 10 years ago. And so that is such a huge win for me from all the decisions that I've made. And it's been a long journey. And am I self-love queen? And do I have this ideal body? Like, no, but I am definitely happier. I definitely love myself more. I definitely have a lot healthier habits in place that if I wouldn't have gone on this journey, I mean, this year might have killed me, to be honest. I don't know if I'd be here, because there's so many things that I've just learned about myself in the past several years that's getting me through this. And if the version of me that existed 10 years ago, I had nothing put in place. I was a disaster to myself on a daily basis. And so I'm like, I was already doing that without a global pandemic. So again, the importance of just the healthy lifestyle more than weight loss is take care of yourself. So when things get real hard, you're your own life raft in a way.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Your own life raft.
Yeah. Right. Like it just feels like I built those things to kind of help me get through this. Is it perfect? Nope. But it's better than nothing.
You're your own damn raft, girl.
Right? And I'm my own best friend. Just kidding. God. Just kidding. Chrissy's my best friend.
My cat's my best friend too.
Yeah, see. Well, after that deep conversation, I guess we'll see what's going on next week. Hopefully we can still go to Pilates together in person. If not, we'll figure something out. Go on a socially distanced walk or something. And just every day just do the best we can until next week.
That's right. Be your own raft.
Right. All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
For info on health coaching and more, go to AmandaValentineBites.com.